It has been a while. Welcome to Wedding Planning Wednesdays. I haven't gone live since, I don't know, I think it was the end of May when John and I did our last one. Today I'm trying something different. I'm also going live on Instagram. No idea if anybody is going to be watching, but if you're here on YouTube, thank you so much. I'm just really getting back into the swing of things. And I did dress up a little bit today because I wanted to feel festive. I am going to be breaking down Taylor and Travis's wedding, or what we know about the wedding, and what it means for your wedding when it comes down to it, right? But anyway, welcome to Wedding Planning Wednesdays. It's a weekly live series where I dive into my favorite wedding planning topic of the moment, and I, try to help you make decisions that are intentional and personal for your wedding. And I can't wait to just pick it back up again. On a personal note, I've really been getting back into the swing of things. I was gone for most of June. I was traveling in Asia, and when I came back, the reverse jet lag was kind of real. And it took me a while to just get back into it, into the sleep rhythm, into the work rhythm. And it's really back on full force. It hasn't even been a month since we got back, but it feels like it's been a lot. And it's also summer. So summer means a lot of busy activities. I feel like everyone wants to be out and about, including myself. And so we've just been making a lot of plans with friends and family and just trying to enjoy the summer kind of more chill time. Honestly, though, it's also like a really busy time for event season, and the next few months are really going to be busy. So I'm really trying to make it a point to be as consistent as possible here. And I think what has been bringing me joy these days is really making plans, like spending time with friends and family, like focusing on what's important, even for the business, whether that's, prioritizing or reinvesting the money that we're making into things that matter to us. And I think right now we're at a phase where we are able to do that, thankfully. So I'm really excited to keep going for that. But thank you so much for being here. I'm very, very grateful. And today, these are some of the things. I did a little bit of a deep dive after Taylor and Travis's wedding. It was a couple of weeks ago at this point, but it was July 3rd in New York City at Madison Square Garden, which I'm sure everyone obviously is familiar with. But I found that they probably chose this venue for its privacy, in terms of like it was the least kind of potential of anything being captured. For example, if they did it at like an estate or something like that, people can use drones. Like paparazzi can still get views inside of like whatever venue they're in. So Madison Square Garden really afforded them this privacy that they wanted for them and their 1,000 close friends. And, it seemed like most people did have to sign, or a lot of people outside of their inner circle and closest family and friends did have to sign an NDA. And that's why you really haven't seen photos and things like that. But, there were tidbits that people shared, via, by being a source to, outlets like People Magazine and stuff like that. So a couple of things that I read about is that they opted for digital invitations, which I thought was interesting. And not that they needed to save money, but I mean, I'm kind of glad that they did that, because to print 1,000 invitations and envelopes and then also mailing them all over the globe and all of that, I mean, that's not very sustainable. So I'm glad they made that decision. It's funny because I guess a lot of guests did not expect them to send a digital invite. So when they first got it, a lot of them thought it was spam, which is understandable. But they did digital invites, which I always recommend to my clients who want to save paper and want to be a little more sustainable. It's not a must-have. It's really not a must-have. It's also much quicker to get information to people. I guess the only thing is not everybody uses email, especially if you have any older family members or friends. But digital is always an option for invites or for save the dates. Apparently, their ceremony, they spent 40 minutes on vows, 20 minutes for each person. I personally feel like that's a little bit long, even if you are Taylor Swift and Travis. But, I'm sure they had a lot to share, and apparently it was beautiful. But I personally have never seen vows that were so long. Typically, I don't normally set like a time limit on vows, but things like speeches and stuff like that. Sweet spot is probably like 5 minutes, maybe 10 max. But apparently their vows were 20 minutes long. And I saw a note about how they read it from gold books. And I'm wondering, like, what kind of gold books? Like gold color, gold foil, like 24 karat gold? Like, what was it? Like, I want to know. They didn't have a wedding party, and they had Taylor's brother be the man of honor. The best man was Travis's brother. And they donated $26 million to charities a few days before their wedding. Their wedding, don't know exactly what it cost, but it's been guesstimated to have cost $30 to $50 million. $30 to $50 million. What's crazy, though, is that Taylor's net worth is, I looked it up, it's $2 billion. So to her, like $30 to $50 million, it's under 3% of her net worth, like 2.5% if she did spend $50 million, and less than 2%. So for her, it's a drop in the bucket. The $26 million donation, drop in the bucket. When you have $2 billion, it's really nothing. They had a strict no phone policy. They wanted guests to be present. I'm sure it also helped for the NDA portion of it, like, people capturing moments and things like that. But I'm sure even all these celebrities who had to lock up their phone appreciated being able to be present at the wedding. The couple didn't ask for any gifts because, like, what are you going to get Taylor and Travis? I'm sure all the guests were relieved. Like, can you imagine, like, when I give cash gifts, it's like maybe a few $100s, a couple $100s, just depending. And can you imagine, like, Taylor and Travis getting envelopes for like couple $100s or whatever? Like, what do you even get them? So I'm sure all the guests, especially like friends and family who are like commoners, like not celebrities, I'm sure they were happy about that. But yes, so I just wanted to like give you kind of like a breakdown of what their wedding had, or what we know. And they supposedly had like carnival games. It didn't seem like it was like a sit down dinner. It was like full of food stations and like a lavish dessert table and all of that. So I'm sure they had really good food and beverage, obviously. And then of course they had to pay the city the permitting costs. I'm sure there was a lot of NYPD involved and security and all of those things. And they had the best of the best of the best. But I wanted to kind of talk about, obviously the scale of her wedding is like next level. Like people like celebrities, not just any celebrity, but people like Taylor Swift, who are just completely in a different echelon of society. We don't have access to like that kind of budget or that kind of thing, right? But there are certain things that have relevance to just a wedding in general. And I also wanted to kind of go through like what I would have asked them. There's questions like I want to ask. I would love to ask if, I was ever able to get the chance to interview Taylor Swift. Like how did you decide on the guest list? And I think this is also for a question for just general couples, right? Like, how do you decide on the guest list, especially if you're someone who has a lot of friends, a lot of let's say clients or working relationships, you're just someone who's out there all the time. Like, how do you decide on the guest list? And for me, I was like, okay, I was talking to John about it. She invited 1,000 people. They invited 1,000 people. And I'm like, how well do you really know these 1,000 people? And I guess in her however many years, 20 plus years of rising to superstardom, she's obviously interacted with thousands and thousands of people. And maybe all of these people did have an impact on her life and she wanted them to be there. But when it comes to your wedding, like, who do you really want to be there? Like, who's really going to make a difference if they're not there? I think that's the bigger question. And so, it still applies because I was just curious about how she invited them, because that's a lot of people, And then I am curious, like, did she have like a budget, like budget cap, or was it just kind of like do all these things and it is what it is in terms of the cost? But did she have a budget cap? Not sure. And then I would love to know what her like one non-negotiable was. I'm sure there were a bunch, but I'm assuming maybe like the no phones thing, definitely having like a ceremony. I wonder what her most important, or their most important, I'm like leaving Travis out of it, but their most important element was. And like, for someone who's such in the public eye, like, how did they keep it from really becoming a production? It was a real production, like they had raffles with like Chanel bags as giveaways. But I think probably like the privacy part of it, that was really probably very important to them. And I am also wondering, like, what is she going to remember? What are they going to remember in 20 years, like from their wedding? It's not going to be the food probably, or like what they spent on flowers or anything like that. But like, I wonder what is going to be the most memorable for this couple. But basically, I wanted to talk about this because in terms of scaling also, it's just because they spent $50 million. Obviously, you probably don't have $50 million. I definitely don't have $50 million. But when it comes to your wedding, I think it's really important to get kind of rooted in reality and also priorities of what you want, because it's really easy to get lost also in like the trends or like what's cool out there and all of that. But even after the celebrity wedding, it's like everyone's scrambling to like do the look that, they think she had, or do like the garden engagement that she had, or whatever it may be. And of course, celebrities can set trends. But I would definitely try to cut out all the noise and focus on what's important to you. And, when it comes to it, like the elements of her wedding were really, of course the scale was different, but things like food and beverage stations and a lavish dessert table, like if food is important to you, like there's ways that you can make that come across in your wedding. If you want to have very personal vows for 20 minutes long because that's what's important to you, like you can do that for your wedding. The no phone policy, controversial. But I did do one wedding where it was a very micro wedding with just 11 people. The couple did not, it was like grandma's parents, siblings, like just immediate family. And it was at like a house in Malibu. We did a little dinner, and the couple did not want anyone to have their phones. So we took everyone's phones and put it in the bedroom, and the grandmas were like, what? Like, I need my phone. But you know what? At the end of the day, it was really great because it really pushed everyone, encouraged everyone to just engage in conversation, not take photos and content and things like that, and just really focus on the moment, on the couple, on each other. And I thought it was a really nice touch, honestly. And I feel like, of course, everyone is glued to their phones all the time. And so, I thought about like having events, or like when I host people at my house, like just not having phones out, or at least for a portion of it. And so, I thought that was an interesting touch, but even that, like, I feel like is, that was very intentional on their part, not just for the no, like, probably they didn't want everyone to take content there, and also to enforce the NDA more easily. But I did think that was a cool touch. But all this to say, we can look to celebrity weddings for inspiration, for ideas, but I don't want you to get bogged down in the niceties of everything more than what's important to you and your partner and your families, like for the actual day. So, just reeling it back a little bit, and getting grounded in that as you're planning is very, very important. And, I have a weird kind of relationship with money. I grew up in an immigrant household with immigrant parents. And I would say we were really not even fully like actual middle class. I would say we were maybe lower middle class for a lot of my life. And we kind of remained that way, my entire life. And even after college, like I never pursued careers that made a lot of money because I didn't really have an interest in making a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, like I want to make money. Like I want to build a business that's very profitable that I can build. But at the end of the day, my fulfillment and just joy that comes with work and life and living life is just more important to me. And so even when I'm working with my couples who have a budget, I like have a decent budget. I'm not just trying to like spend money, just to like spend the budget. Like I want to, give them as much details as possible, much information so they can make decisions based on, not just being extravagant, but, something that makes sense for their actual wedding. And so, oops, excuse me. Something that makes sense for their actual wedding. You know what I mean? Like I don't want them to just spend money just for the sake of spending it. But there's always ways to save money. And so like I just have a interesting relationship with money that I'm always trying to work on as well. And I don't like, it's great to be able to work with clients who have a big budget where we can spend some money, just make everything look pretty and like spend a ton on decor and all of that. But honestly, it's not necessary. You know what I mean? Like even if you have money, it doesn't mean you have to spend it. And so that's just a different way to reframe it. And that's why I was like wondering, like, did Taylor Swift have a budget? Like, did she have a budget cap? You know what I mean? Even though it sounds ridiculous to say it, like, did she also have a budget cap? Because it's not like, like it's kind of hard to spend like $100 million. It's easy, but it's also hard. You know what I mean? So that's why I just wanted to bring up bring up their wedding, because I still feel like in a weird way, or in a funny, like it's still possible to kind of apply the thinking to your own wedding as well. I hope that made sense. I felt like I was rambling a little bit. But yeah, I mean, just getting grounded in your priorities. And I do have another video about how to really do that with you and your partner. So I'll link it down below. But yeah, I mean, this month I feel like we're halfway through summer. And I'm really happy to be picking this back up. It took me forever to set up today, to be honest, because it had been a while since I set up, and I didn't even do the full setup because I've just been out of sorts. But what else is new? What else is new? But I hope wherever you are, you're doing well, that you're thriving, that you're having a great summer. I really, really appreciate you being here. I did go live on Instagram today. So hello to anyone who's watching on IG. And I'm going to try and figure out how to film this, in tandem or like on one platform so I can actually engage once there's people watching live. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this video helpful, I would love it if you could share it with your friends, other people getting married, people in the industry, so that, they can also discover my channel and help me grow. And I really appreciate your support. And I'm going to keep going. It's been a year, I think, almost a year since I launched this live. And the support has been really, really great. And I'm so excited to just keep working on providing wedding planning resources for all the engaged couples out there, and also sharing a little bit of my life, because I think connection is important. And I would love to hear about what you want to hear about, especially when it comes to weddings, weddings and people, weddings and tips, like any of that. So thank you so much for being here. This is Wedding Planning Wednesdays, and I am Jane Yu. See you next time.